The tunnel wars humanity's last refuge. The world was burning. Sky-high buildings that once touched the heavens were now reduced to rubble, their concrete frames crumbling beneath the weight of a relentless alien assault. Explosions echoed through the streets of every major city, sending plumes of smoke spiraling into the sky. The invaders, dark and hulking figures with eyes that glowed like fire, tore through the planet's defenses like paper. Humanity's technological marvels, its satellites, drones, and military machines, were no match for the alien forces. The collapse of Earth had been swift, brutal, and unforgiving. Cities, once bustling with life, were now silent graveyards. For weeks, humanity had fought back, but every attempt to stand its ground had failed. The aliens didn't fight like humans. They didn't show mercy. They didn't get tired. They were relentless. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting an eerie orange glow over the remains of a once thriving metropolis, a new message blared from the emergency broadcast system. It was a last-ditch attempt to offer hope to the dying remnants of humankind. Attention all survivors. Emergency protocol is now in effect. Humanity's last refuge is located in the underground city sector, codename Haven. All remaining citizens are advised to make their way to the designated escape tunnels immediately. This is not a drill. The broadcast ended abruptly with a crackle, leaving behind a deafening silence. But for those still alive, there was no time to dwell on what they had lost. The only thing that mattered now was survival. Jaden Harper, a former soldier turned resistance fighter, stood at the entrance of an abandoned subway tunnel. His face was smeared with dirt and blood, his clothes torn from days of fighting. He could barely remember the last time he had seen sunlight. The world had become a maze of rubble and chaos, and the tunnel systems had become humanity's last hope. Jaden hadn't asked to be a leader. He wasn't one to inspire people or rally armies. He had simply been in the right place at the right time. A soldier in the early days of the invasion, he had witnessed the horrors firsthand, seen his comrades torn apart, seen entire families disappear in the blink of an eye. He had survived when many others had not. But now he found himself leading a ragtag group of survivors through the depths of the city. Their mission was simple: make it to the tunnels and reach Haven before it was too late. But even as the emergency alert broadcasted, Jaden knew it might already be too late. The alien forces had already pushed them to the brink of extinction. Haven was supposed to be a sanctuary, a last bastion for humanity, but Jaden didn't trust it. Nothing could guarantee safety in a world where the enemy could wipe out entire populations in a single strike. "Everyone stay close," Jaden ordered, his voice low but firm. He scanned the darkened entrance to the tunnel, his hand resting on the rifle slung over his shoulder. His group of survivors had gathered, clutching what few supplies they could carry: water, rations, and anything they could salvage from the ruins of the city. "I don't like this," said Maria, one of the youngest members of the group. She had barely been old enough to join the resistance, but her sharp eyes and quick thinking had saved them more than once. "We've been running for days, Jaden. What if Haven doesn't even exist?" Jaden didn't have an answer for her. He didn't know if Haven was real. He didn't know if anything was real anymore. But he couldn't let them give up. "We keep moving. It's our only shot." The group moved forward, the sound of their footsteps echoing in the hollow darkness of the tunnel. The air smelled stale, and the walls were coated with a thin layer of moisture. It was a far cry from the bustling cities they had once known. There were no signs of life here, just shadows and whispers. Jaden's heart raced. He had been down in these tunnels before, but this time it felt different. This time, it felt like they were all running toward something they could never escape from. The alien invaders were everywhere, above, below, and even in the air. Every part of Earth was under siege. As they walked, Jaden's thoughts drifted to the past, to his family, to his friends. He remembered the day everything changed, the day the sky went dark and the alien ships descended. The military had tried to fight back, but it had been no use. The invaders had technology far beyond anything humanity could imagine. He remembered his father's voice, telling him to be brave, to never give up, even when the odds were stacked against him. Those words echoed in his mind as they continued down into the depths of the earth. "We're almost there," Jaden said, though he wasn't sure if he believed it himself. He had no map, no coordinates, just a feeling that the tunnel would lead them to somewhere safe, somewhere that wasn't filled with fire and death. But deep down, Jaden knew that Haven might not be the refuge they had hoped for. It was humanity's last hope. But that didn't mean it would be enough. There were too many unknowns, too many dangers lurking in the dark. The silence in the tunnel was broken by the sudden, bone-chilling screech of alien craft overhead. Jaden stopped in his tracks, listening intently. The sound grew louder, closer. The aliens had found them. His eyes met Maria's, and they both knew what had to be done. The group had to keep moving. The tunnel might be their only chance to survive, but they wouldn't be safe for long. The alien ships were relentless, and if they were spotted, it would be over. "Move. Now," Jaden shouted, and the group broke into a sprint, their footsteps pounding against the hard ground. The aliens were fast, but so were they. They had the advantage of knowing the tunnels, of using the darkness to their favor. The sound of alien footsteps grew closer, but they couldn't stop. They couldn't afford to. As they ran, Jaden felt a strange sense of hope. Maybe, just maybe, they could make it to Haven. Maybe they could fight back, not just survive. But then, as they turned a corner, they came face to face with something Jaden had never expected. Alien soldiers, guarding the very tunnel they had hoped would lead them to safety. The group skidded to a halt. The aliens stood frozen, their glowing eyes fixed on them. Time seemed to stretch as Jaden's mind raced. This wasn't just a fight for survival. This was humanity's last chance. And they weren't alone. Secrets in the depths. The walls of the tunnel were closing in, the air thick with a stifling humidity that made every breath feel like a battle. Jaden and the small group of survivors pushed forward, their boots echoing through the passage. The distant sounds of alien patrols above them were a constant reminder that time was running out. Each step felt heavier, more urgent, as the weight of their mission pressed down on them. They had been running for hours, winding through the endless maze of underground tunnels that snaked beneath the city. The map Jaden had found, barely legible after years of disuse, showed a hidden government facility somewhere deep in the heart of the labyrinth. It was marked as Project Eclipse, a name that offered no clues, only mystery. How much farther, Jaden? Maria's voice broke through his thoughts, her face pale in the dim light of their flickering flashlight. Jaden glanced at the map, then looked up at the dark passage ahead. "We should be close. Stay sharp. The aliens could be anywhere down here." Maria nodded, but Jaden could see the worry in her eyes. Everyone was tired, and their supplies were running low. No one knew what to expect at the end of this tunnel, but one thing was certain. The stakes were higher than ever. This project, whatever it was, could be humanity's last chance. If they could reach it before the aliens did, they might have a fighting chance. But that was a big if. The tunnel stretched on, an endless expanse of concrete and rusting metal. Every so often, they passed doors that had long been sealed, remnants of old infrastructure forgotten by time. Jaden's mind kept returning to the map. There was something hidden here, something powerful. "Do you really think this project will help?" Maria asked, her voice low. "I mean, it sounds too good to be true. A secret weapon, hidden for all this time. Why would they keep it down here?" Jaden shook his head, not having an answer. "I don't know, but it's all we've got. We need something to turn the tide. If it's real, then we might just have a shot." But as they moved deeper into the darkness, doubt began to gnaw at him. The aliens were ruthless. They had destroyed entire armies, wiped out cities, and left nothing but ashes in their wake. Could one weapon, no matter how powerful, really change anything? Was it even worth the risk of venturing so deep into the heart of enemy territory? Suddenly, the tunnel in front of them opened up into a vast underground chamber. The floor was uneven, the air heavy with the smell of decay. Broken equipment and strange, alien-looking devices were scattered across the room. It looked like a forgotten research facility, long abandoned, but the faint hum of electricity suggested otherwise. Jaden signaled for the group to stop. "This is it," he whispered, motioning them forward. "This is where Project Eclipse is supposed to be." As they moved into the room, the group's flashlight beams danced over walls lined with strange symbols and dusty computers. At the center of the room, behind a glass partition, stood a large, imposing structure. An alien-looking device. It was shaped like a massive orb, its surface covered in intricate patterns that seemed to shift as they watched. Jaden's heart raced. This was it. This was the weapon they had been searching for. "What is this thing?" whispered Ethan, the tech specialist in the group. He stepped closer to the glass partition, his breath fogging up the surface as he tried to make sense of the machine inside. "I don't know," Jaden replied, his voice tight with excitement. "But whatever it is, it's our best shot." The room was eerily silent, the only sounds their footsteps and the low hum of the machine. For a moment, Jaden allowed himself to feel a spark of hope. Maybe this was it. Maybe they could fight back. Maybe humanity wasn't doomed after all. But before he could move any closer, a loud bang echoed from the far side of the room. His head snapped around, his hand instinctively reaching for his weapon. "We're not alone," Jaden muttered under his breath. Suddenly, the air seemed to grow colder, and a shadow moved across the far wall. The survivors froze, every sense alert. Jaden could hear the faint sound of footsteps, too quiet, too calculated. The aliens had found them. "Take cover," Jaden shouted. Instantly, the group scattered, diving behind pieces of broken equipment and rusted machinery. The room fell into complete darkness, the only light coming from their flashlights, which barely pierced the black void. Jaden's heart raced as he crouched behind a steel crate, his rifle gripped tightly in his hands. He couldn't see them, but he could hear them. The low, guttural growls of the alien soldiers, their footsteps echoing as they moved through the room, searching for the intruders. "They found us," whispered Maria from behind a nearby console. Her voice was shaky, but there was no time for fear now. Jaden's mind raced. The project was within their reach. The weapon was right there, just beyond the glass. But the aliens were too close. They couldn't risk a fight here, not with the device so vulnerable. "Everyone, we need to move," Jaden barked. "Get to the exit, now." The group began to move, but before they could make it to the door, the alien soldiers appeared. They were fast, moving with unnerving precision as they stalked into the room. Their glowing eyes locked onto the humans with deadly focus. Jaden's breath caught in his throat. They were surrounded. "Get down," Jaden shouted, opening fire as the first alien lunged toward them. The sound of gunfire rang out, echoing off the walls, but the aliens were relentless, shrugging off the bullets like they were nothing. A blast from one of the alien weapons struck the wall beside Jaden, sending debris flying. The force of the explosion knocked him off his feet, and he hit the ground hard, his vision spinning. "Jaden," Maria's voice cried out, her hand reaching for him as she crawled toward him through the chaos. But before she could reach him, an alien soldier grabbed her, its claws digging into her shoulder. Maria screamed, but Jaden couldn't move. His body felt numb, the pain from the blast coursing through him. He could hear the aliens closing in, their footsteps growing louder. Time was running out. "Jaden, we have to go." Ethan's voice broke through the haze of pain. He was still standing, firing his weapon with shaking hands, trying to keep the aliens back. Jaden's eyes snapped open. He couldn't let them die here. Not like this. He had to act. With a surge of adrenaline, he pushed himself to his feet, grabbing his rifle and sprinting toward Maria. The aliens were closing in, but they weren't fast enough. Jaden fired 2 quick shots, taking down the nearest alien. He yanked Maria free, pulling her behind a large piece of debris. "Move, now," he shouted. The group scrambled to their feet, moving faster than ever. They had to get out, and they had to get out now. But just as they reached the exit, Jaden heard a deafening roar behind him. The aliens weren't finished. They were going to follow. And they weren't alone. Betrayal in the darkness. The group moved quickly through the dark tunnels, their footsteps echoing in the silence. The recent battle with the aliens had left them shaken, but they couldn't afford to stop. Every minute counted. Jaden's mind raced as he led the group deeper into the labyrinth of tunnels, the map clutched tightly in his hand. They had to reach the control room of the hidden government facility, where the mysterious Project Eclipse was located. But something didn't feel right. "We need to keep moving," Jaden muttered under his breath, trying to shake the unease that had settled over him. There was a tension in the air, something more than just the fear of the aliens closing in on them. It was the feeling that something was wrong, something inside their own group. Maria, breathing heavily, jogged up beside him. "Jaden, are you sure we're heading in the right direction? This map is. It's hard to make sense of." Jaden nodded, though he wasn't entirely sure himself. The map had been outdated, damaged by years of neglect, but it was their only lead. The dark tunnels felt endless, and every turn seemed to bring them deeper into the heart of the alien-infested labyrinth. "We're close. Just a few more tunnels," Jaden said, trying to sound confident, but the doubt in his voice was unmistakable. Behind them, Ethan and Olivia were talking in hushed tones, their voices barely audible over the sound of their footsteps. Jaden tried to ignore it, but the whispers gnawed at him. They had all been through so much already. The team had been fighting together for weeks, surviving on the edge of extinction. They had lost so many already, and they couldn't afford to lose any more. Yet, as they moved forward, Jaden's mind kept returning to a single thought. Something wasn't right. One of them was hiding something. Maybe it was paranoia. Maybe it was the stress of the endless battle. But Jaden couldn't shake the feeling that one of them wasn't who they claimed to be. Suddenly, a low, ominous noise echoed through the tunnel. The sound of something, or someone, moving fast. Jaden spun around, heart racing. "Get down," he shouted, instinctively pulling Maria behind cover. The group dove for safety, their weapons drawn and ready. The noise grew louder, the sound of heavy footsteps approaching quickly. Jaden's pulse quickened. "Aliens," he muttered, gritting his teeth. But as the shadows of the alien soldiers appeared at the far end of the tunnel, Jaden's eyes widened in shock. It wasn't aliens that they had to worry about. It was something much worse. Standing at the head of the approaching group was Ethan. His face was cold, expressionless, as he lowered his weapon and turned toward the rest of the group. "It's over," Ethan said, his voice flat and devoid of emotion. Jaden's mind went blank. "Ethan, what are you talking about?" The shock of betrayal hit him like a punch to the gut. Ethan had been with them from the beginning. He had fought beside them, shared their hopes, their fears. How could this be happening? Jaden's stomach twisted in disbelief. "You were working with them? The aliens?" Maria gasped, her voice trembling. Ethan gave a slight smirk, the expression so foreign on his face that Jaden couldn't believe it. "I was never with you. I've always been working for them. The aliens promised me power, survival, a future. You humans were always doomed." Jaden's heart sank. It felt as though the ground had been ripped out from under him. All their trust, all their sacrifices, everything had been a lie. Ethan had been the mole, the spy who had sabotaged their efforts from the start. "You betrayed us." Olivia's voice was shaking with rage as she stood to face Ethan. "All this time, we thought you were one of us, and you were feeding us to the aliens." Ethan's eyes flicked to the group, his gaze cold. "You were never meant to survive. You were just tools in a game I'd already won." Before Jaden could react, Ethan moved swiftly, pulling out a device from his belt and pressing a button. The device emitted a low hum, and the entire tunnel seemed to tremble beneath them. Jaden's breath caught in his throat. The trap had been set. The aliens had known they were coming. They had walked right into it. "Run!" Jaden shouted, snapping out of his shock. "Get to the control room. Now." But as they began to scramble, the ground beneath them shook violently. The tunnel walls cracked, and alien soldiers appeared at the other end, their weapons raised. The group was surrounded. Ethan's laugh echoed through the tunnel as the aliens moved in. "You're too late. The project is already under their control. The aliens will finish what they started, and you'll all be wiped out." Jaden's mind raced. They were trapped. They had no way out. But then, something inside him snapped. They couldn't just give up. They couldn't let Ethan win, not after everything they had been through. "Olivia, Maria, take the left tunnel," Jaden ordered quickly. "I'll hold them off. Get to the control room and activate Project Eclipse." Maria opened her mouth to protest, but Jaden cut her off. "This is our last chance. Do it now." With a final, reluctant nod, Maria and Olivia dashed down the left tunnel, their footsteps echoing as they disappeared into the darkness. Jaden turned to face Ethan. The betrayal stung, but there was no time to dwell on it. They had a mission to complete, and as long as he was alive, he would fight to see it through. The alien soldiers were closing in, and Jaden knew this would be the fight of his life. He raised his rifle, aiming at the nearest alien, and fired. The weapon discharged with a deafening roar, and the first alien crumpled to the ground. Jaden didn't stop. He fired again and again, taking down as many as he could. But they kept coming. The odds were against him, but Jaden refused to back down. He could hear Ethan's voice in the background, taunting him, but he ignored it. He had a mission to complete, and he wasn't going to let Ethan, or the aliens, stop him. Suddenly, a loud crash echoed through the tunnel, and a burst of blinding light filled the space. Jaden turned just in time to see Olivia and Maria bursting through the tunnel entrance, their faces grim but determined. "We've got it," Olivia shouted, holding up a small device. "Project Eclipse is online." The ground shook once more, but this time it was different. The light from the device illuminated the entire tunnel, and Jaden could feel the energy crackling in the air. The aliens paused, their expressions shifting from confidence to confusion. It was now or never. Jaden glanced at Maria and Olivia. "Let's finish this. The final assault begins." The tunnels were darker now, the air thicker with tension. Jaden's heart pounded as he glanced at his team, his thoughts clouded by the memory of Ethan's betrayal. But there was no time for doubt. They had a mission: rescue their captured teammate and retrieve the hidden weapon that could change everything. The world was depending on them. They had been traveling for hours, following the faint map they'd pieced together, and now they were deep within enemy territory. Alien soldiers patrolled the area, their unsettlingly quiet steps echoing in the distance. Every movement felt like a potential death sentence. "We can't keep moving like this," Maria whispered, eyes darting to the shadows. "We're going to be caught." "We don't have a choice," Jaden replied, his voice firm. "We get to the weapon, and we end this. For good." They had to save one of their own. Olivia. She had been captured during the ambush in the tunnels, and was now in the clutches of the alien forces. If they couldn't rescue her, they'd lose their last chance at survival. The team was already stretched thin, and without Olivia, they wouldn't stand a chance. They had to risk everything. "Let's move out," Jaden ordered, voice low and steady. The team followed, crouching low as they navigated through the winding, crumbling tunnels. Every sound, every rustle in the air, felt amplified in the silent depths. The further they went, the more the tension mounted. The walls seemed to close in on them, and the smell of decay filled the air. It wasn't just the alien forces they had to worry about now. The tunnels themselves were treacherous, lined with traps designed to stop intruders, traps that could turn the slightest mistake into their last. Jaden's eyes scanned every corner, every darkened space, searching for any sign of movement. He could hear his team's breath quicken as they continued their journey, the weight of their mission pressing on them all. But they couldn't slow down. Every moment was precious. Olivia's life was ticking away with every passing second. The silence was suddenly broken by a sharp hiss. A blast of heat and a burst of light erupted from a nearby wall, sending a shower of debris into the air. Jaden ducked instinctively, pulling Maria down with him as the explosion rumbled through the tunnel. "Trap!" Ethan shouted, his voice urgent. "We're walking right into their lair." "We have to keep going," Jaden snapped, pulling them to their feet. "The weapon's just ahead." They pressed on, adrenaline surging through their veins. The alien forces were closing in around them, but they couldn't afford to stop now. They had one last chance to turn the tide of the war. One last chance to stop the invasion. After what felt like hours of weaving through deadly traps and alien patrols, they finally reached the control room. The massive door stood before them, a thick wall of steel and reinforced energy barriers. Jaden could see the flickering lights inside the chamber, and he knew that the weapon they were searching for was right behind that door. But there was no time to waste. They had to act fast. "We need to break through that door," Maria said, voice tight with tension. "If we don't, we're as good as dead." Jaden nodded, his mind working rapidly. "On my count," he ordered. "We breach the door and get inside." They positioned themselves, weapons raised, and prepared for the final push. The team moved into position, each member ready to fight. Jaden held his breath as the seconds stretched into what felt like an eternity. The sound of distant alien footsteps was growing louder. There was no more time to hesitate. "Now," Jaden shouted. They charged the door, firing at the control panel to disable the energy field. Sparks flew as the door began to open, and the group rushed inside. The room was massive, the walls lined with alien technology, and at the far end, in a reinforced glass chamber, stood the weapon they had come for. It was a massive energy cannon, capable of destroying entire alien fleets in a single blast. The room was swarming with alien soldiers, their weapons raised and ready. The odds were stacked against them, but there was no turning back now. The team spread out, taking cover behind the large metal structures scattered throughout the room. Gunfire erupted, and the air was filled with the sound of explosions and energy blasts. The aliens were relentless, but Jaden and his team fought back with everything they had. "We need to disable the weapon," Jaden shouted, trying to make himself heard over the chaos. "Olivia, find the control panel." Olivia, though held captive not long ago, was already pushing forward. She had been tortured, and yet her resolve remained unbroken. She moved quickly, her eyes scanning the room for the control panel. Finally, she spotted it, high on the wall, just above the weapon. Without hesitation, Olivia sprinted toward it, dodging blasts from the aliens that narrowly missed her. She reached the control panel and began working quickly, her hands trembling but steady as she input the commands. Come on," Jaden muttered under his breath, eyes never leaving the battle. But just as Olivia was about to deactivate the weapon, the door at the far end of the room slammed open. A hulking alien leader stepped forward, its eyes glowing with a fierce, unnatural light. The leader's body was armored, and its presence was terrifying. This wasn't just any alien, it was the commander of the invasion forces. Jaden's breath caught in his throat. They had underestimated the alien leader. It was far stronger than any of them had anticipated, and they were about to pay the price for it. "Move," Jaden yelled, but the alien leader raised a massive weapon, a weapon that pulsed with deadly energy. The battle intensified as the team dove for cover, the alien's weapon tearing through the room. Jaden had only one thought: survive. They had to survive this fight if they were going to stop the alien invasion, and they had to do it quickly. The final showdown had begun. The weapon of hope. The control room shook with the force of the ongoing battle. Sparks flew from damaged consoles, and the air was thick with the smell of burning circuits and scorched metal. Jaden barely had time to register the alien leader before it lunged forward, moving faster than anything that large should be capable of. Jaden dodged to the side as the alien's massive blade sliced through the air, missing him by inches. He rolled behind a console, gripping his rifle tighter. "We need to activate the weapon now," he shouted over the chaos. Olivia was still at the control panel, her fingers racing over the keys. "I'm trying. This system is ancient. Some kind of advanced AI is running it, but it's not responding properly." Maria fired at the alien leader, but the energy blasts barely slowed it down. It roared in anger, its glowing eyes narrowing as it raised its weapon, preparing to strike. "We don't have time for malfunctions," Ethan yelled, throwing a grenade toward a group of alien soldiers pouring into the room. The explosion rocked the chamber, sending debris flying. Jaden peeked over his cover and locked eyes with the alien leader. "You want to fight?" he growled, stepping forward. "Then let's finish this." The alien leader lunged again, swinging its energy blade. Jaden ducked, firing a series of rapid shots that bounced off its thick armor. It was too strong, too fast. If they couldn't stop it, they would never gain control of the weapon. "Olivia, override it," Jaden shouted. "I'm trying." Olivia's voice was tense, beads of sweat forming on her forehead. "The AI is resisting." A deep mechanical voice suddenly echoed through the chamber. "Unauthorized access detected. State your command." Jaden's heart leaped. "We're here to activate the weapon. Earth is under attack. We need this system online." There was a long pause. Then the AI spoke again. "Identification required. Biological confirmation necessary." Olivia's eyes widened. "It needs a human DNA scan. Someone has to." Before she could finish, the alien leader charged at her. Jaden reacted without thinking, slamming into the creature's side and knocking it off balance. They crashed onto the metal floor, the alien snarling as it tried to throw him off. "Go. Activate it now," Jaden yelled, struggling against the alien's crushing strength. Maria rushed to the console and placed her palm on the scanning pad. The machine beeped, and the AI's voice spoke again. "Human DNA confirmed. Weapon activation in progress." The entire room rumbled as hidden machinery whirred to life. Panels along the walls slid open, revealing enormous screens displaying battle data. A holographic map of Earth flickered into existence, showing alien forces swarming across the continents. The alien leader let out a furious roar and threw Jaden aside. He crashed against a console, pain exploding through his ribs. The creature turned its gaze toward the control panel, realizing what was happening. "No, you don't," Ethan growled, unloading a full clip of plasma rounds into the alien's back. The creature staggered but didn't fall. The AI's voice echoed again. "Earth defense system online. Preparing counterattack." Olivia grinned. "It's working." Suddenly, robotic turrets emerged from the ceiling, locking onto the alien invaders. High-powered energy blasts filled the room, taking down multiple enemies in seconds. Across the map, human resistance bases lit up as weapons long thought lost were reactivated. Missiles, satellites, and underground bunkers began targeting alien ships. Hope surged in Jaden's chest. They had done it. They had finally turned the tide. But then the AI's voice changed. "System error detected. Core functionality compromised. Defense grid shutting down." Jaden's blood ran cold. "What?" The screens flickered, and the holographic map started glitching. One by one, the defensive systems across Earth powered down. The turrets in the room stopped firing. The lights dimmed. "No, no, no." Olivia frantically typed on the console. "What's happening?" The AI's voice was distorted now, flickering between languages. "Control compromised." Foreign presence detected. Initiating purge. Maria's eyes widened. The aliens must have already infected the system. It's shutting everything down. The alien leader grinned, stepping forward as if it had been expecting this all along. It raised its weapon, eyes glowing with triumph. "We're sitting ducks," Ethan muttered, gripping his gun tightly. Jaden's mind raced. They were so close, but now they were about to lose everything. The eye was failing, the defenses were going offline, and the alien leader was still standing. He forced himself to his feet, ignoring the pain. "We're not done yet," he said. "There has to be a manual override. We need to take control of this AI before it's too late." But before anyone could move, the walls trembled as something massive approached. And then, the chamber doors exploded inward. A new wave of alien forces stormed in. More soldiers, more weapons, and a towering biomechanical war machine, unlike anything they had seen before. The final battle was about to begin. Humanity's last stand. The tunnels trembled as the alien war machine stepped forward, its massive frame casting an eerie glow in the dimly lit chamber. The air was thick with dust and the acrid scent of burning metal. Jaden and his team stood their ground, battered but unbroken. "This is it," Maria murmured, gripping her weapon. "Either we fight now, or humanity is finished." Jaden took a deep breath, scanning the faces of his people, Olivia, Ethan, Maria, and the dozens of resistance fighters who had survived this far. Their eyes burned with exhaustion, but beneath that, there was something stronger: determination. "The AI is down, the defenses are failing, and the aliens think we're done," Jaden said, his voice steady. "But they're wrong." The survivors shifted, standing taller. "We've fought too hard, lost too much to give up now," Jaden continued. "This is our home. And if this is the end, then let it be a story the universe will never forget. We stand, we fight, and we send those monsters back to whatever hell they crawled from." A roar of agreement echoed through the tunnels. The resistance was ready. The alien war machine unleashed a pulse of energy, sending shockwaves through the chamber. The humans dove for cover as the floor cracked and sparks rained from the collapsing ceiling. "Spread out. Flank that thing," Jaden ordered. Ethan sprinted to the side, tossing a grenade that exploded against the machine's armor, barely scratching it. Maria and Olivia fired concentrated energy blasts, but the war machine's shields deflected them. Then the alien soldiers swarmed in. Dozens of them, their glowing eyes like cold fire, rushing in from all directions. Plasma bolts filled the air as humans and aliens clashed in brutal close combat. Jaden tackled an alien soldier, slamming his knife into its throat before rolling to fire at another. Olivia ducked under an enemy's blade, shooting it point blank. Ethan and Maria fought side by side, using the tunnel's tight spaces to their advantage. "Fall back toward the main shaft," Jaden shouted. "We need to get to the surface." As they fought their way out, Olivia worked on her wrist console, scanning the wreckage of the AI systems. "We can still override the AI manually," she shouted over the chaos. "But someone has to get to the main core, deep in alien territory." Jaden's mind raced. How long would it take? "Too long," she admitted. "It's a one-way trip." He clenched his jaw. There was no way out of this without a sacrifice. The tunnels finally opened into the ruins of an old military base. Above them, the alien mothership loomed in the sky, its weapons charging for a final strike. "This is it," Maria said. "Jaden, what do we do?" Jaden glanced at his people, then at Olivia. "You can reprogram the AI from the core." She nodded. "But whoever goes won't make it back." A heavy silence fell over them. Jaden exhaled, gripping his rifle, then on going. Maria grabbed his arm. "No, we need you here." "I have to," Jaden said firmly. "If I can reset the AI, we'll have a chance." Ethan stepped forward. "We're all in this together, Jaden. Let's make it count." Jaden hesitated, but then nodded. All right, we make a final push. You all hold the line while I go for the core. The battle exploded into chaos. Humans and aliens clashed across the ruins, explosions lighting up the night. Jaden sprinted through the battlefield, dodging fire, heading toward the AI core deep inside the alien base. Olivia guided him through his comms, her voice strained as she fought alongside the others. You're almost there, she called. The doors ahead slid open, revealing the alien leader, waiting for him. You are too late, it hissed. Jaden didn't hesitate. He lunged forward, dodging the first strike and firing at point-blank range. The alien roared, slashing him across the chest. But Jaden kept going. He reached the console, blood dripping from his side, and slammed his hand onto the override panel. The AI's voice crackled back to life. System rebooting. Defensive grid activated. Across the battlefield, automated turrets powered on. Massive cannons emerged from underground silos. The sky lit up as Earth's defenses came back online. The mothership fired, only to be intercepted by a wave of missiles. The resistance fighters cheered as the alien forces began retreating. The tide had turned. Jaden collapsed to his knees, breathing hard. The alien leader staggered, mortally wounded, but still standing. You cannot win, it rasped. Jaden smirked. We just did. With his last ounce of strength, he fired the final shot. The alien fell, lifeless. The next morning, the sky was clear. The mothership was gone. Earth was damaged, but still standing. Jaden limped back to his people, greeted by relieved smiles. It's over, Maria whispered. No, Jaden corrected, looking at the survivors. It's just the beginning. The war wasn't finished, but humanity had proven one thing. They would never be defeated. The air was heavy with smoke, the ruins of battle stretching as far as the eye could see. Scattered wreckage of alien war machines lay in twisted heaps, their once impenetrable armor now torn apart by Earth's final desperate stand. The ground was scorched, buildings reduced to rubble, and the sky bore the scars of the war that had nearly wiped out humanity. Jaden stood at the edge of the broken city, his breath slow, his body aching from wounds both seen and unseen. His fingers tightened around the worn grip of his rifle, now more of a symbol than a weapon. It was over. The battle had been won. But as he looked around, he couldn't ignore the cost. Survivors wandered the streets, searching through debris for anything salvageable. Some carried the wounded, their faces pale but determined. Others huddled together, whispering prayers of gratitude or mourning those they had lost. There were no celebrations, no cheers of victory, just silence, filled with the weight of everything they had endured. Maria approached, her uniform stained with blood and dirt. We did it, she said, her voice raw. We won. Jaden exhaled, nodding. Yeah, but at what price? She didn't answer, just looked out at the remnants of their world. Ethan and Olivia joined them, both battered but alive. Olivia clutched a damaged data pad, the last remaining piece of the AI that had turned the tide in their favor. The system is still unstable, she said. We barely got it working in time. Ethan wiped sweat from his forehead. Doesn't matter now. The aliens are gone. For now, Jaden muttered. They all fell silent. They had fought with everything they had, pushed themselves beyond their limits, but the scars ran deeper than the ruined cities. Earth had survived, but it wasn't the same world anymore. Jaden turned toward the survivors gathering near the remains of the old military base. They were waiting for someone to tell them what came next. People who had once lived normal lives, engineers, teachers, doctors, farmers, now stood as warriors, forced to fight for every breath. We need to rebuild, Olivia said, as if reading his thoughts. Start over. Humanity has a second chance. Jaden nodded. Then we use it wisely. He stepped forward, raising his voice so all could hear. We fought for this world, he said. We bled for it. And now we have to rebuild it. Not as separate nations, not as divided people, but as one. A murmur spread through the crowd. Some nodded. Others just listened, too tired to react. This war took everything from us, Jaden continued. But we are still standing. We are still here. And that means we have a future. Maria took a deep breath. We can't just survive. We have to live. Ethan clenched his fist. No more waiting for the next war. We make sure this never happens again. The crowd stirred, energy returning to their tired faces. It wasn't much, but it was something. Hope. The days that followed were slow and painful. The dead were buried, the wounded treated. Food was scarce, water even more so. But every morning, people rose and worked together, clearing rubble, gathering resources, rebuilding homes. Olivia and a group of technicians salvaged what they could from the AI, repurposing its knowledge to help restart old power grids. Maria led scouting teams beyond the city, searching for other survivors. Jaden spent his days among them all, leading, helping, making sure they never lost sight of why they fought. This wasn't just about survival. It was about reclaiming their future. One night, as he stood alone on a broken rooftop, looking at the flickering lights of their makeshift camp, Maria approached him. "You ever think about what's next?" she asked. Jaden sighed. "Every day." "Do you think they'll come back?" He didn't answer right away. Instead, he gazed at the night sky. It was clearer now, without the glow of burning cities. The stars were brighter. But somewhere out there, beyond the endless dark, something else could be watching. "I don't know," he admitted. "But if they do, we'll be ready." Maria nodded. In the distance, beyond the ruined city, something flickered in the sky. A single, dim light, barely visible, moving against the stars. Jaden narrowed his eyes. It was probably nothing. Just debris, a fallen satellite, a trick of the atmosphere. Probably. But deep inside, a part of him wasn't so sure.